Hey, Coach Lee here, and I want to talk about base training with my clients and with anybody who wants to join on for this year. I want to start up in October and November for most of you. Some of you will be joining me in December and even as late as January, depending on what athlete or what type of athlete you are. So basically, it's going to start off with, some great prep, and then it's going to go into your traditional base period 1 and base period 2. And build and build and build towards your peak event, right? So what is base training? Base training for me is really going to just really nail that foundation, right? We're going to build a great foundation by which we just can spring from in 2022 to nail our A events, our B events, nail our goals, nail our fitness levels so that we can drive everything home for 2022, right? First of all, for all of my athletes, they get this, right? This is Joe Friel. This is something that I repeat over and over again. Even in the base period, we might not be working as hard as we can, but by God, we're still committed. What is commitment for Joe Friel? Striving for peak performance is a 24-hour-a-day, 352-day-a-year task. Racing at the highest possible levels demands a full-time commitment that is not just training related. The higher the goals, the more life must revolve around eating, sleeping, and working out. Eating nutritious food fuels the body for training and helps speed recovery by replenishing depleted energy and nutrient stores and by providing the building blocks for a stronger body. Sleeping and working out have a synergistic effect on fitness, right? Joe Friel, legendary author, nails it again. So basically, we're going to start off with this belief that, for 2022, we're going to do a lot of things in our life, arrange a lot of things in our life that are going to work towards, not against, but work towards our fitness goals, right? So basically, I'm no inventor of this schedule. It works really well. There's tens of thousands of athletes and more data every year that this is just a great strategy, right? Where we prep for 4 weeks, we build base for about 12 weeks, we build for another 8 weeks, and we peak for, 8 weeks depending on your event. It could be 5 weeks, it could be 6 weeks. And then we go into a maintenance. And then next thing you know, it's July and August. And then we're, building towards another peak maybe, right? But one of the most important things that I really have to stress is my process, right? Because what we're seeing here, prep 4 weeks, base 12 weeks, build 8 weeks, peak 8 weeks. That might not be for you, right? So let's go through my process, all right? Now it's a great slide. I am no inventor of this slide by any means whatsoever. This is a straight redesign of something that Tim Cusick employs a lot of his training methodology with his coaches and people that he mentors. This is just a fantastic slide. So basically, we're going to look at you, right? Going into this base period, diagnosis, okay? We're going to look at you, your life goals, your life fitness, your A events, your B events, your C events, or even if you even have big events that you want to do. I have clients that are just here for me to help them maintain general fitness. They don't do grand fondos, they don't do crits, they don't do time trials. They're just interested in general fitness, right? So all of this, I can't stress enough, all of this is completely individualized. So then we're going to basically, what is training? Training is the manipulation of volume and intensity based on everything that we learn with diagnosis via a specific training modality. Now, what is training modality? This is a fancy word for basically the 4 types of main training systems that are out there today. Long, slow duration, HIIT, polarized, and what people call sweet spot, pyramid. I like to call threshold because so much of this fourth one here, training system, is what you see out there a lot, right? Sort of FTP training, threshold training, where you hear terms like sweet spot, right? Things like that nature. And then all of that, right? And then the coach really becomes a manager, right? We manage your fitness and freshness till we hit your end goals, which could be a peak. It could be just to get up to 95% for the entire season. Okay, so that's kind of how we roll. Now, this first month, I absolutely love, right? This first month, we're going to do prep. Now, prep sounds kind of boring, but prep is actually an amazing time of the year. This is where we jump in and we just define a lot of stuff. Let's look. Okay, so let's look at all this prep, right? So we've got postseason review, where we go over your last season, right? What were your goals? Did you nail your events? What happened? What were the good? What's the bad? Let's talk about it. What can we do better? Then we get into goal setting. Okay. Then we define our nutrition goals, right? Nutrition strategies. That's a big one, right? Define our strengths, define our limiters. Tech upgrade strategy. This is one of my favorites. So for 2022, what are we going to do to our bike? What are we going to do to our tires? Do we need a new bike? Do we need a new chain? What are we going to do? What do our events demand from our tech, and how can we meet those demands? Then we're going to design a strategy for 2022, really based on one of those modalities or a mixture of one of those modalities. Then, I really like to get this out of the way. Let's do a doctor physical. Let's get in there. Let's do blood tests. Let's test the serum ferritin in the iron in the bloodstream. Let's look at, cholesterol levels. Let's look at all that stuff. And then also something that's overlooked is a dentist checkup. Because, right, you don't want to be heading towards your event and then all of a sudden you have a major infection in your mouth. You have to get on antibiotics before you can get a tooth pulled or a tooth fixed or something like that, right? And then in this prep, this is about 4 weeks. This is before we start heavy base training. I want to start the light strength work, just, functional strength training, just working with our body, going through movements, getting ready. I've got tons of exercise. We'll do core work. And most importantly, we're going to rest up from the previous season and have fun. We're going to go on rides that we might not have gone on before during hardcore training. But October or these first 4 weeks, depending on who you are, we want to have fun, right? And then I'm actually, for most of my clients, going to make them take 2 weeks off the bike, right? You get that? We're going to do 2 weeks off the bike, okay? So those first 4 weeks of prep, we're going to do a postseason review, goal setting, all that great stuff, and then 2 weeks off the bike. All right. Then when we're going to jump into base, like the first couple months, we're going to do, we're going to have the plan that's designed for you. And all of my athletes could have a different plan. And we're going to define the plan and the tools that we will need that will be able to launch for the rest of our season, right? And these are all estimates, 8 weeks, right? This is all estimates. It depends totally on the athlete how long we're going to stay in the base season. But, generally 3 months, okay? 3 to 4 months is a great range to jump in for the season, okay? Now, here's one huge thing. How do we make all this work? What is the most fundamental thing that we can do? Well, it is consistency. It is rhythm. It's getting your body just in a consistency which is prepared for rhythm. That's the only way that this will work, right? Where we're doing 5 days a week, maybe 6 days a week for some of my athletes. And then we get in that intensity rhythm where Tuesdays is going to be this intense. Wednesday's going to be more like this. Thursday's going to be more like this. And we really get that body craving a certain consistency, but also a certain certain rhythm. And then so you can look here, this is an example of not having consistency and not having rhythm in a training workout. Now, one of my big things is in this period, in these initial months of base, right? We're going to work your endurance. We're going to work your tempo. We're going to work some sweet spot. Yeah, we're going to work some threshold in the base, right? We're going to do towards the very end, we're going to do some nice threshold. And then VO2, I always like to have that in throughout the entire year, different amounts of it, right? So training is managing that volume and the intensity, but all throughout the year, I definitely like intensity. When we get into my build periods, I really like a lot more VO2, but all through the base period, there will be tiny little bursts of VO2, some sprint work, things of that, right? And my big thing during this period is that we're going to have to nail that endurance, right? So one of the things that I do as a coach is that I'm going to make sure that I really hold you to zones, right? In the base period, you can have some fun and you can have some mixing in and out of zones and all of this great stuff. But one of the things that I'm going to focus on the most is this zone 1, right? So I'm not a Nazi about all this stuff, but I tend to be a Nazi about zone 1. Why is that? Okay, this comes from Andy Coggin's Training and Racing Using a Power Meter, an introduction. It was an article down in 2003, and this chart was in there. And this is one of the most amazing things about this chart is that look what happens when you do zone 1 work, when you're going too easy, right? When your coach says go out and do 2 hours of endurance, but you just read that as, oh, I'm just going to go out and play around for 2 hours. Well, look what happens in zone 1. What physiological adaptations happen in zone 1? Well, not much, right? The secret sauce really starts happening around zone 2. This is your endurance phase, right? This is where the lactate starts to build up. This is where those physiological adaptations start to happen, right? And so the difference between zone 1 and zone 2 is not a lot, right? It's usually just a little concentration on your part to nail that zone, okay? So that's one of the things that I really focus on. So, coming out of base training, I don't want you to look like that. I want you to look a lot more like this, right? Where we have a lot more time in that endurance zone, 25, 26, 27% over here in zone 1, but then we notch it up. For most of the year, this is kind of what your time in zones looks like, right? But actually doing this is pretty hard. It takes some dedication. It takes some route selection. It takes some dedication. It takes some concentration. It's funny, going easy is not as easy as it sounds, right? The endurance zone is a fascinating zone. It's usually flyover country from people who are doing too much tempo and then going too easy, going too hard, going too easy, going too hard, going too easy. But doing that endurance zone, it's an amazing, productive zone. All right. So basically, let's wrap this up. I want to be your coach. Stage 1, we're going to prep. We're going to define your strategy and plan. Stage 2, we're going to follow the plan. You've heard that a lot from coaches. Let's follow this plan. Yeah, we're going to, rewrite portions of it. We're going to change everything. We're not going to let the note, if you will, define the entire symphony. We're really trying to build a symphony, to use a metaphor from Tim Cusick. And we're going to nail our zones. We're really going to try to stick, and particularly the endurance zone, right? Especially in this base period. You can be a little sloppier, but for base, I really want you to nail that endurance. And then we're really going to develop consistency and rhythm, right? So here's my contact information, Lee at pro13.com. Check us out, www.pro13.com. Again, I'm Coach Lee, and I want you to do your base training. These next 4 to 5 months, I want you to do them with me. That is my plan. Let's get this done, and let's work together, right, for your goals. Let's get it done. Thanks a lot.